The school principal thought she could bully and physically assault my 6-year-old daughter without facing any consequences. She grabbed her roughly, yelled directly in her face, and then shoved her so hard that she crashed into a desk. What this power-hungry woman had no idea about was that I'm the assistant commissioner of police, and every single moment of her attack was caught on the school's security cameras. Before I share the complete story with you, I'd love to know, what country are you watching from? Drop a comment below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more incredible true stories. The phone rang at exactly 2:47 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. I was sitting in my office at police headquarters, going through case files and drinking what had become cold coffee. My secretary knocked on the door with an urgent look on her face. "Sir, Meadowbrook Elementary is on the line. It's about your daughter, Sophie." My heart immediately dropped into my stomach. Sophie was my 6-year-old daughter, my entire world ever since my wife passed away 3 years ago in the hospital after a long, difficult battle with cancer. Sophie was supposed to be safe at school, learning her ABCs and making friends with other children her age. "This is Assistant Commissioner Ryan Miller," I answered the phone, trying my best to keep my voice steady and calm. "Mr. Miller, this is Mrs. Anderson from the nurse's office. You need to come to the school right away. There's been an incident involving Sophie." "What kind of incident?" I asked, my voice getting tighter. "Is she hurt?" "Please just come as quickly as you can, sir. Principal Davis wants to speak with you personally." The drive to Meadowbrook Elementary normally took about 20 minutes. I made it in 12, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white as my mind raced through every terrible possibility. When I pulled up and got out of my car, I could see Sophie through the nurse's office window. She was sitting on a small chair, crying softly to herself. Her left cheek was red and swollen. Her pink dress, her favorite one, was dirty and wrinkled. Her butterfly backpack, the one she was so proud of, was lying on the floor with crayons scattered all around it. "Sophie!" I rushed to her side, kneeling at her level. "Baby, what happened? Who hurt you?" "Daddy!" She threw her small arms around my neck, sobbing into my shoulder. "The principal lady was so mean to me. She grabbed me really hard and yelled at me." My blood ran ice cold. Someone at this school had hurt my little girl. Before Sophie could tell me more, the office door swung open. In walked Principal Margaret Davis, the same Margaret Davis who was president of our neighborhood HOA and had been making my life absolutely miserable for the past 8 months, with constant complaints about my lawn, my car, and pretty much everything else she could think of. "Mr. Miller," she said coldly, as if nothing unusual or concerning had happened. "Thank you for coming so quickly." I stood up slowly, my police training helping me stay calm and professional, even though I was furious inside. "Mrs. Davis, my daughter tells me you hurt her. Please explain to me what happened here." "Your daughter was being extremely disruptive in class. She refused to follow the school rules and became defiant when I tried to discipline her." I looked down at Sophie. All 40 pounds of my shy, gentle little girl who cried whenever she saw hurt animals on television. Defiant? She's 6 years old and she barely speaks above a whisper. Age doesn't excuse bad behavior, Mr. Miller. I maintain strict discipline in my school. Mrs. Anderson, the school nurse, looked visibly uncomfortable with the conversation. "Mr. Miller, perhaps we should discuss this situation privately." "No," I said firmly. "I want to know exactly what happened to my daughter right now. Sophie, tell Daddy what the principal did." Sophie wiped her eyes with her small hand, still trembling. "I was in the library reading a book. Miss Peters, the librarian, said I could sit in the corner and read quietly. But then the principal lady came in and said I wasn't supposed to be there. She said I was skipping class." My heart was breaking listening to this. Sophie loved reading more than almost anything. We spent every single evening before bedtime reading stories together. It was our special time. Then what happened, sweetheart? I told her that Miss Peters said it was okay because my class was at PE, and I had a doctor's note saying I can't do PE because of my asthma. But she didn't believe me. She grabbed my arm really tight and pulled me out of the library. I could already see finger-shaped bruises starting to form on Sophie's small arm where someone had gripped her roughly. "Keep going, baby. What happened next?" She dragged me to her office and made me stand in the corner. She said, "Children who lie don't deserve to sit down." But I wasn't lying, Daddy. I really did have a note from Dr. Wilson. My voice came out low and dangerous, the tone I only used when dealing with criminals. "Mrs. Davis, did you physically grab my daughter and force her to your office? I escorted a disobedient student who was in an unauthorized location. Did you verify her story with the librarian or check for a medical note?" Margaret's face tightened with irritation. "I don't need to verify stories from children who are known troublemakers." Sophie is a troublemaker? I could barely control my anger now. Children from single-parent homes often have behavioral issues. They lack proper discipline and structure. That comment made my blood absolutely boil, but I forced myself to stay calm and professional. "What happened after you put her in the corner?" Sophie started crying harder, reliving the trauma. "I was scared, Daddy. The corner was dark and I started crying because I missed Mommy. Then the principal lady got really mad and said if I didn't stop crying, she would give me something to really cry about." "And then?" I asked, as gently as I could. "I couldn't stop crying because I was so scared. So Sophie demonstrated with her small hands on her own cheeks. "She grabbed my face like this, and she yelled really loud right in my face. Then she pushed me, and I fell. My cheek hit the corner of her desk." I looked at the red, swollen mark on Sophie's precious face. Then I looked at Principal Margaret Davis, who was standing there with her arms crossed like she had done absolutely nothing wrong. "You assaulted my 6-year-old daughter. I administered appropriate discipline for a defiant child. You physically grabbed a child, forced her into your office without verifying her story, made her stand in a corner, yelled in her face, and pushed her hard enough to injure her. Mr. Miller, I've been a principal for 15 years. I know how to handle difficult children." That's when I noticed something crucial. There was a security camera mounted in the corner of the nurse's office, pointing toward the hallway, and I could see another camera above the library entrance. "Mrs. Anderson, I need to see the security footage from the library and Principal Davis's office from today." "I don't think that's necessary," Margaret said quickly, a hint of panic in her voice. "Actually, as Assistant Commissioner of Police, I'm making this an official request. Either show me the footage right now, or I'll be back with a warrant and a team of officers in 1 hour." Mrs. Anderson looked nervously between the two of us. "The security system is managed by the district office. I'll call them right away." While we waited for the district office to respond, I took detailed photographs of Sophie's injuries with my phone. The bruises on her arm were darkening by the minute. The swelling on her cheek was getting worse. I also called Dr. Wilson's office to confirm that Sophie did indeed have a medical note excusing her from PE due to her asthma. "Daddy, am I in trouble?" Sophie asked quietly, her voice so small it broke my heart. "No, sweetheart. You're not in trouble at all. You did everything right. But the principal lady said I was bad. The principal lady was wrong. You are a good, sweet girl who followed all the rules. She's the one who did something very wrong." 30 minutes later, the district superintendent, Mr. Harrison, arrived personally with a laptop containing the security footage. What I saw on that screen made my hands shake with pure anger. The video showed Sophie sitting quietly in the library corner, peacefully reading a book. Miss Peters, the librarian, was clearly visible in the footage, smiling at Sophie and even giving her a thumbs up of encouragement. Then Principal Davis stormed into the library. Even without any sound, you could see from her body language that she was angry and aggressive. She grabbed Sophie's arm roughly and yanked her to her feet. Sophie's mouth was moving, probably trying to explain about the medical note. But Margaret wasn't listening at all. She dragged Sophie out of the library, pulling her so hard that Sophie's feet were barely touching the ground. The footage from the hallway showed Margaret forcing Sophie into her office, practically throwing her inside. Another camera inside the office showed Margaret pointing angrily to the corner and yelling. Sophie stood there crying, her small body shaking. Then Margaret walked over, grabbed Sophie's face with both hands, and yelled directly into her face from just inches away. When Sophie continued crying, because what 6-year-old wouldn't be terrified, Margaret shoved her backward with both hands. Sophie fell and her face struck the sharp corner of the desk. "That's assault and battery," I said, my voice deadly calm and professional. "That's child abuse. That's a felony." "Now wait just a minute," Margaret started to protest. "No, you wait. You just committed a serious crime against my daughter, and it's all recorded on video evidence." I pulled out my phone and called dispatch directly. "This is Assistant Commissioner Miller. I need units at Meadowbrook Elementary School immediately. I have a suspect in custody for child abuse and assault on a minor." Margaret's face went completely white. "You can't be serious. I'm the principal. I have the authority to discipline students." "You have the authority to give detention, call parents, or suspend students. You do not have the authority to physically assault children. Let me explain something to you, Mrs. Davis. I've been a police officer for 18 years. I know exactly what child abuse looks like. I just watched you commit it on camera. The sound of sirens was already approaching the school. Furthermore, you made absolutely no effort to verify Sophie's story with the librarian or check for her medical note. You grabbed a 6-year-old child, dragged her to your office, verbally abused her, and then physically assaulted her. That's multiple criminal charges." Sophie was clinging to my leg, still crying softly. "Daddy, is she going to hurt me again?" "No, baby. She's never going to hurt you or any other child ever again. I promise you that." Officer Rodriguez arrived first. I'd worked with him for years. He took one look at Sophie's injured face and immediately understood the gravity of the situation. "What do you need, Commissioner?" "I need you to arrest Principal Margaret Davis for child abuse, assault and battery on a minor, and violation of civil rights. I have video evidence and photographs of the injuries." "Mrs. Davis," Officer Rodriguez said professionally and calmly, "I need you to place your hands behind your back." "This is absolutely ridiculous," Margaret protested as the handcuffs clicked into place around her wrists. "I'm being persecuted for doing my job." "Ma'am, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." As Margaret was led away in handcuffs, Sophie looked up at me with her big brown eyes so much like her mother's. "Daddy, why was she so mean to me?" That question absolutely broke my heart into pieces. Some grown-ups have problems inside their minds that make them treat children badly. It's not your fault at all, sweetheart. You did nothing wrong whatsoever. "Do I have to come back to this school?" "Not if you don't want to. We'll find you a new school where everyone is kind and treats children with respect." Over the next few hours, the story grew much bigger than just one incident. The local news picked up the story of a school principal being arrested for assaulting a 6-year-old child. Parents started calling the school in droves, demanding answers about their own children's safety. The school board launched an emergency investigation into Principal Davis and her conduct. What they discovered was even more disturbing than anyone had imagined. Margaret Davis had been abusing children for years, possibly even decades. Security footage showed her grabbing other students roughly, yelling at them with her face inches from theirs, and pushing them around. She had been specifically targeting certain types of children, mostly kids from single-parent homes, children with learning disabilities, and minority students. She had a clear pattern of not believing children's explanations and refusing to verify their stories with teachers or staff members. The district attorney called me that same evening. "Commissioner Miller, we're filing multiple felony charges against Davis. With all the video evidence we've collected and the other victims who are coming forward, she's looking at serious prison time." "What about the other children she hurt?" I asked, thinking about all those families. "We're in the process of identifying all the victims now. This is going to be a major case, but I want you to know that your quick action today probably saved other children from being hurt in the future." That night, I tucked Sophie into bed. She was holding her favorite stuffed rabbit tightly, the one my wife had given her shortly before she passed away. "Daddy, Will there be mean principals at my new school? No, sweetheart. Most teachers and principals are good people who truly love children and want to help them learn. Mrs. Davis was sick in her mind, and that sickness made her do terrible things to kids. What if I do something wrong at the new school? Then your teacher will help you learn how to do it right. That's what good teachers do. They help you learn and grow. She was quiet for a long moment, thinking, Daddy, are you proud of me for telling you what happened? Tears filled my eyes. I'm so incredibly proud of you, baby girl. You were brave when something really scary happened. You told the truth even though you were afraid. You are the most amazing little girl in the entire world. I miss Mommy. She would have protected me, too. More tears streamed down my face. Mommy is watching over you from heaven, sweetheart, and she's very, very proud of you, too. The trial took place 8 months later. Sophie didn't have to testify in person because the video evidence was so clear and overwhelming. Margaret Davis was convicted on multiple counts of child abuse, assault and battery, and civil rights violations. She was sentenced to 4 years in prison and permanently banned from ever working with children again in any capacity. But the real victory, the one that mattered most to me, was seeing Sophie begin to thrive at her new school. Riverside Elementary was everything Meadowbrook wasn't. The principal, Mrs. Chen, actually knelt to Sophie's level when they first met, looking her in the eyes with genuine warmth. Sophie, I'm so happy you're joining our school family. I heard you love reading. Would you like to see our library? It's one of my favorite places in the whole building. On Sophie's first day at the new school, I walked her to the classroom. She was understandably nervous, holding my hand tightly. What if something bad happens again? She whispered. Then you tell your teacher right away. And if she doesn't help you, you call me immediately. But I think you're going to absolutely love it here, sweetheart. Her teacher, Miss Rodriguez, was a young woman with a genuinely warm smile and kind eyes. Sophie, I'm so excited you're in my class. Would you like to choose where you'd like to sit? That afternoon, Sophie came running out of school with a huge smile on her face, the first genuine smile I'd seen in months. Daddy! Daddy! Guess what happened today? What, sweetheart? I dropped my pencil box, and pencils went everywhere, all over the floor. But Miss Rodriguez just smiled and said, Oops, accidents happen. And then 2 other kids came over and helped me pick them all up. My heart absolutely soared. That sounds wonderful, baby. And we have a reading corner with soft cushions and stuffed animals, and Miss Rodriguez said I can read there whenever I want. Over the next several months, Sophie truly blossomed like a flower in the spring. She made friends, joined the art club, and even started raising her hand to answer questions in class. The scared, hurt little girl gradually transformed into a confident, happy child again. One day, she came home from school with a drawing she'd made in art class. What's this, sweetheart? I asked, studying it carefully. It's you arresting the mean principal. See, there you are with your police badge, and there she is with handcuffs. And that's me, standing safe behind you. I looked at the drawing more closely. In it, I was drawn much bigger than Margaret Davis, almost like a superhero protecting his daughter. Why did you draw this picture? I asked gently. Because you saved me from the mean lady. Miss Rodriguez told us that when bad things happen, good people stand up to stop them. That's what you did, Daddy. That's exactly right, Sophie. And I'll always protect you. Her teacher, Miss Rodriguez, pulled me aside during a parent-teacher conference. Sophie has shown incredible empathy and resilience. She's naturally drawn to children who are struggling emotionally, and she has this amazing ability to make them feel welcome and safe. Last week, when a new student was crying because she missed her old school, Sophie sat with her at lunch and shared her sandwich. She told the girl that it's okay to feel sad about changes, but that good things can happen in new places too. She's been through a lot, I said, feeling proud and sad at the same time. It's made her stronger and more compassionate than most adults I know. She talks often about wanting to help other children who are scared or hurt. You should be very proud of her, Mr. Miller." The ripple effects of Margaret Davis's arrest continued to spread throughout the community and beyond. The school district implemented completely new policies about child discipline and safety. Security cameras were installed in every single classroom and common area. More importantly, they created a confidential reporting system where children could report problems anonymously through special boxes in each classroom or through a dedicated phone line that went directly to trained counselors. 6 months after the trial concluded, I was asked to speak at a statewide conference on child protection in schools. Standing at the podium in front of hundreds of educators and law enforcement officers, I shared Sophie's story publicly for the first time. A year ago, my 6-year-old daughter was physically assaulted by her school principal, I began, my voice strong despite the emotions I felt. The woman who was supposed to protect her and nurture her love of learning instead chose to hurt her, simply because Sophie was quietly reading in the library with permission from the librarian. The audience was completely silent, hanging on every word. What happened to Sophie was terrible and traumatic, but it led to something critically important. It revealed a pattern of abuse that had been hidden for over a decade. It gave other families the courage to come forward with their own stories, and it resulted in policy changes that will protect thousands of children for years to come. I clicked to the next slide, which showed a recent photo of Sophie at her new school, smiling brightly as she helped a younger student with their backpack. This is Sophie today. She's not a victim anymore. She's a survivor who uses her experience to help other children. She's learned that when bad things happen to us, we can either let them destroy us, or we can use them to become stronger and help others who are going through similar struggles. After my presentation, several people approached me with tears in their eyes. One teacher said, her voice shaking with emotion, "Thank you for sharing Sophie's story so openly. I had a student last year who I suspected was being mistreated by another staff member, but I wasn't sure how to help or if I should get involved. After hearing this today, I know I need to be braver about speaking up for children who can't speak up for themselves." 2 years after the incident at Meadowbrook Elementary, Sophie asked me if we could drive past her old school. "Why do you want to go there, sweetheart?" I asked, curious about her reasoning. "I want to see if it looks different now." We drove past Meadowbrook Elementary on a Tuesday afternoon, almost exactly 2 years after that terrible day. The school had a new principal, and from what I'd heard, the entire culture of the school had changed dramatically. There was a new sign out front that read, "Meadowbrook Elementary, where every child matters." "Look, Daddy," Sophie pointed to the playground, where children were laughing and playing freely. "They look happy now." "Yes, they do, sweetheart. I'm really glad." Then Sophie said something that absolutely stunned me. "I'm glad Mrs. Davis hurt me." "What? Sophie, why would you say that?" "Because if she hadn't hurt me, you wouldn't have stopped her from hurting all those other kids. Now they get to go to school without being scared every day." My eyes filled with tears. My 8-year-old daughter had just taught me something profound about finding meaning in suffering. "You're right, sweetheart. Sometimes hard things happen to us so we can prevent even harder things from happening to others. That's why I still want to be a police officer like you, Daddy, to protect kids who don't have police officer parents to protect them." 3 years after the initial incident, Sophie was in 4th grade and absolutely thriving. She had been elected to the student council, where she successfully created a buddy system that paired older students with younger ones who needed support and friendship. She also started a kindness club that met once a week to plan acts of kindness around the school. "We made thank you cards for all the teachers," Sophie told me proudly one afternoon. "And we're planning a surprise party for the cafeteria workers because they work so hard every day to make our food and nobody ever thanks them." Her natural leadership qualities hadn't gone unnoticed by the adults around her. The district superintendent asked Sophie to be part of a student advisory committee that would help develop new anti-bullying policies for all the schools in the district. At the first meeting, Sophie was the youngest member by 3 years, but she spoke with a confidence and wisdom that impressed everyone in the room. I think kids need to know that it's always okay to tell a grown-up when someone is being mean to them or hurting them, she said clearly and confidently. And if one grown-up doesn't believe them or doesn't help them, they should keep telling different people until someone does help them. The committee chair, Dr. Williams, was visibly moved by her words. Sophie, that's exactly the kind of insight and perspective we need on this committee. Can you help us think about how to make it easier and less scary for kids to report problems? Maybe we could have special people at each school whose only job is to listen to kids when they have problems, Sophie suggested thoughtfully. And maybe those people could have bright, friendly offices so kids wouldn't be scared to go talk to them about things. That suggestion became the foundation for the district's new student advocate program, where specially trained counselors were placed in every single elementary school, specifically to be available for children who needed help or someone to talk to. Margaret Davis was released from prison after serving 2.5 years of her 4-year sentence due to good behavior. As part of her parole agreement, she was permanently banned from working with children in any capacity and had to register as a child offender. I heard through police department channels that she had moved to another state to start over somewhere new. Sophie knew about her release. I had always promised to be completely honest with her about everything. "Do you think she's sorry for what she did to me and those other kids?" Sophie asked one evening. "I hope so, sweetheart. But whether she's sorry or not doesn't change what happened. What matters is that she can't hurt children anymore. And what matters is that other kids know they can tell their parents if someone hurts them, right?" "That's exactly right, baby girl." The impact of Sophie's case went far beyond just our local community. The State Education Board used our case as a model for implementing new child protection laws across all public schools statewide. They created mandatory training programs for all school staff about recognizing and preventing child abuse. Every single principal and teacher now had to complete annual certification courses on proper discipline techniques, child safety protocols, and recognizing signs of abuse. Dr. Harrison, the district superintendent who had helped us during the initial investigation, personally called me 6 months after the trial. "Commissioner Miller, I wanted you to know that Sophie's case has fundamentally changed how we approach student safety in our schools. We've had 0 incidents of physical discipline since we implemented the new policies. Teachers tell us they feel much more equipped to handle difficult situations without ever resorting to aggression or physical contact." "That's wonderful to hear," I replied, feeling grateful. "Sophie will be happy to know her experience is continuing to help protect other children." "There's something else," Dr. Harrison continued. "We'd like to establish the Sophie Miller Child Safety Award. It would be given annually to a student who demonstrates exceptional courage in standing up for themselves or others. Would you and Sophie be comfortable with that?" I discussed the award proposal with Sophie that evening over dinner. Her eyes lit up when I told her about it. "Really, Daddy? An award named after me?" "Yes, sweetheart. They want to honor your bravery and help other children understand that speaking up when something is wrong is important and courageous." "I think that's wonderful. Maybe it will help other scared kids know that it's okay to tell the truth when something bad happens, even if they're afraid." The first Sophie Miller Child Safety Award was presented 6 months later at a school board ceremony. Sophie got to present the award herself to a brave 3rd grader named Marcus, who had reported bullying he witnessed in the cafeteria, even though he was afraid the bullies might target him next for telling on them. As Sophie handed Marcus the award, she knelt to his level, just like Mrs. Chen had done for her years ago. "You were really brave, Marcus. Thank you for protecting other kids who couldn't protect themselves." Marcus hugged her tightly, and I saw tears in the eyes of many parents in the audience. This was exactly what we had hoped for, turning a painful, traumatic experience into lasting, positive change that would help children for years to come. 4 years after the incident at Meadowbrook Elementary, Sophie was in 5th grade and had become a recognized advocate for child safety throughout our community and beyond. The local newspaper had done a feature story about her advocacy work, and she had been invited to speak at several community events about child protection. But the speaking engagement that meant the most to both of us was when she was asked to address a group of brand new teachers at their orientation training session. Standing confidently at a podium that had been adjusted to her height, 10-year-old Sophie looked out at an auditorium full of adults who would soon be responsible for hundreds of children. When I was 6 years old, a principal at my school hurt me because I was quietly reading in the library with permission, she began, her voice clear and strong. It was really scary, and it hurt me physically and emotionally. But my daddy, who's a police officer, made sure she couldn't hurt me or other kids anymore. The teachers listened intently, many with visible tears in their eyes. What I learned from that experience is that most teachers are genuinely good people who want to help kids learn and feel safe at school. But sometimes there might be a teacher or principal who isn't nice or who hurts children. If that happens, kids need to tell their parents or another trusted grown-up what's happening. She paused, looking around the room at all the faces watching her. And it's really, really important for teachers to believe children when they tell you something is wrong. Because sometimes kids need grown-ups to be brave enough to protect them and stand up for them. When she finished speaking, the entire auditorium gave her a standing ovation that lasted for several minutes. Several teachers approached her afterward to thank her personally for her courage in sharing her story. "You're going to make an amazing police officer someday," one teacher told her warmly. "Or an amazing teacher," said another. "You have a real gift for helping people understand important and difficult things." That night, as I tucked Sophie into bed, she reflected thoughtfully on her day. "Daddy, do you think those teachers will remember what I said to them?" "I think they'll remember every single word, sweetheart. You gave them something very important to think about and carry with them throughout their careers." "Good, because every single kid deserves to feel safe when they go to school." 5 years had passed since that terrible day at Meadowbrook Elementary. Sophie was now 11 years old and in 6th grade, her last year of elementary school before moving on to middle school. She had grown into a confident, compassionate young leader who was respected and admired by students and adults alike. She was selected as the student representative for the district's new Safe Schools initiative, a comprehensive program designed to ensure that every child felt protected, valued, and heard. At the initiative's launch event, Sophie stood before an audience of school board members, administrators, teachers, parents, and community leaders from across the district. "5 years ago, something really bad happened to me at school," she said, her voice steady and confident. "But a lot of truly good things have happened since then. I learned that when something bad happens to us, we get to choose what we do next." She clicked to the next slide of her presentation, which showed photographs of all the positive changes that had been implemented across the district because of her case. "We can choose to be scared and angry forever, or we can choose to use our experience to help make things better for other people. I chose to help make schools safer for other kids who might be scared or vulnerable." The audience was completely captivated by this 11-year-old girl who spoke with wisdom and maturity far beyond her years. Every kid deserves to go to school without being afraid of the adults who are supposed to protect them. Every kid deserves to have teachers who are genuinely kind and patient. And every kid deserves to know that if someone hurts them or treats them badly, there are people who will believe them and protect them. When she finished her presentation, the audience erupted in thunderous applause. Several board members had visible tears streaming down their faces. After the event, a reporter from the local newspaper interviewed Sophie about her journey. "What do you want people to remember most about your story?" the reporter asked. Sophie thought carefully for a moment before answering. "I want them to remember that kids are strong and brave, even when really bad things happen to them. And I want them to remember that one person standing up for what's right can end up helping a whole lot of other people." "What are your plans for the future, Sophie?" "I still want to be a police officer like my daddy, so I can protect kids and keep them safe. But I also want to keep working to make schools better and safer places for everyone." Maybe I'll be a police officer who works specifically with schools and children. That evening, as we drove home from the event, Sophie was quieter than usual, looking out the window thoughtfully. "What are you thinking about, sweetheart?" I asked. "I was thinking about Mrs. Davis," she said softly. "Do you think she ever thinks about what she did to me and those other kids?" "I don't know, Sophie." "Why do you ask?" "Because I hope she knows that even though she hurt me and other kids really badly, something good eventually came from it. Not because of what she did, that was wrong and terrible, but because of what people like you did to fix the problem and protect other children." Once again, my remarkable daughter had shown incredible maturity and even a form of forgiveness that I wasn't sure I could manage myself. "You know what, Sophie? You're going to change the world someday. You already are changing it." "I hope so, Daddy. There are still a lot of kids out there who need someone brave enough to stand up for them and protect them." As we pulled into our driveway, I reflected on the incredible journey we had taken together over the past 5 years. What started as the absolute worst day of our lives had somehow transformed into a mission that had already helped countless children and would continue to help many more in the years to come. Sophie's light and spirit had never dimmed despite what Margaret Davis had tried to do to her. Instead, it had grown brighter and stronger, illuminating the path forward for other children who desperately needed.